Mondays at 9 a.m. and Thursdays at 9 a.m. on 90.1 KPFT HD2, Houston's Community Radio.
Hi, this is Michael Woodson of Living Art. You are listening to KPFT Houston.
Welcome to Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. We are here at KPFT with a little bit of background sound, but you know how that goes. We get it cleaned up in a minute, and we're going to get it all cleaned up. I hope. Anyway, we have a great show for you today, everybody. We have two great guests. I mean, we have a community organizer, is what I call her, and we have a community activist, is what I call him. Anyhow, folks, title of the show today, Food Not Bombs. Nick Cooper, Ingrid Bond on mayoral debate. Rich countries must fix environment. Subtitle, Food Not Bombs. Nick Cooper visits to discuss the organization and the attack by the city. Ingrid Bond talks about tonight's Houston mayoral debate, why rich countries must fix the environment. But before we get started, as I drove into the studio today, two things I saw. First of all, I saw the new prices of gasoline, okay? Supposedly we live in a free market society. Supposedly we live in a capitalist society. Here's the deal. Guess what happened? Let me explain why your prices are going up, folks, and then I want you guys to do something about it, starting by driving less and fixing the environment anyhow. But OPEC decided that they were going to take 1 million barrels or more off of the market, and the speculators decided that because 1 million barrels are off the markets, they can raise the prices, right? And they like to say it's one of those supply and demand market forces. It isn't. It's a cartel. And it's not just the OPEC cartel, it's the world oil cartel. Venezuela is sitting down on the largest deposit of oil, bar none, in the world. If it really were about that, and Nick, I don't want you to say, well, we don't really want to use that dirty oil, but here's the deal. If it were really a capitalist market, we would have no shortages, because by the way the market works, there isn't an oil shortage. There has never been an oil shortage. Look at the numbers. It's all in the numbers, but our mainstream media won't tell you that. The other subject is, as I'm driving on 59, I see all those homeless people. We don't call them homeless anymore. We call it the unhoused. All the unhoused people under our freeways. And we know that Houston does have an oversupply of places where these folks could be. But you know what? Because of the market system that we have, we can't put them up. We can't have social services do the work, because you know what they'll say about the type of economy we would be turning into. That's not true either. I mean, it's about humanity, folks. But anyhow, we have two great guests. We have Nick Cooper. Nick Cooper is an American drummer, record producer, and composer, best known for his work with Free Radicals. Nick is also an activist in the media, Food Not Bombs, and a writer for the Free Press Houston and Houston Peace News. He is also a documentary filmmaker, a workshop facilitator, and a student of something I don't know anything about called Capoeira Angola, and virtual artist. Hello, senor.
Hello.
How are you doing, my dear friend?
Doing good.
Talk to me.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about our subject. I'm just introducing you because I want to get to Ingrid first.
Yes. Well, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
You can say a little bit more than that now.
Okay. I will tell you right now, our organization that shares vegetarian meals downtown has been doing it for decades. We're getting ticketed by the mayor, sending cops after us to stop us from sharing food with the homeless.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you something, Nick. First of all, I was at I'm on the board at the Houston Peace and Justice Center. And, when Eileen came and said, what was happening, I'll be frank, I missed that particular news day. And, these things are only covered shortly. They don't really keep these things in the news. And I missed it. And when Eileen said, what was happening to all you guys downtown, I'm like, how comes he's not on KPFT talking about this very serious issue? I mean, why isn't he here? And then she says, okay, I'll put you in touch with him, and that's why I really asked you to come on, because I want you to tell us all those great things, first of all, that your organization is doing downtown, but more importantly, how our supposedly progressive type government is really screwing with with what's going on downtown. But anyhow, we have with us as well Ingrid Bond. Ingrid Bond was raised in Maryland. She moved to Mississippi as a high school senior. She is a registered professional engineer who graduated from the Texas A&M University with a BS in petroleum engineering in 1982. She is an effective community organizer, and there's a link to all that she's accomplished. And she is part of the Bayou Blue Democrats Club. How are you doing, Ingrid?
Hello, Egberto. It's so nice to be here, and I will admit this is my first radio experience, so forgive any weird thing that happens or
Well, you know
misstep
what?
that I make.
I don't care if it's your first experience. You're a pro already, young lady, with all that you're doing, getting a mayoral debate put together with the folks down there. I think that is just great.
Well, this all came to me, I would say, rather late in life. Like so many of us, I think in 2016 we were so shocked by the election results that many of us who previously just had not been involved in politics felt like we had to do something. And that's when I found out that in my neighborhood there had not been a Democratic precinct chair representing us for at least 8 years. And I didn't know how to do it or what it even meant, but I knew it would be better than being vacant. So I applied to the Harris County Democratic Party and was accepted as a precinct chair. And from then, I've just increased my activities, which I don't have to go into too much detail for, but I am currently the president of the Bayou Blue Democrats Club, which is a club that operates under the county in a specific geographic region. So we are basically west of downtown to the Loop and bounded to the north by the Heights and to the south by West U.
Well, beforehand, I did get it started. Beforehand, I tell you something. I don't know if you realize what you just did there. You just told people 2 important pieces of information that will encourage others to be politically involved. Here you are on the radio. First time on the radio, you say, doing a hell of a job, but it tells people, hey, I can throw myself out there and do something. And then you tell us you started late in life with your political involvement, and look how much you've accomplished. I don't know how late in life you're talking about, lady, but I mean, but whatever the case is, you're accomplishing at whatever age you are a very important feat, which is what's necessary for us to really move this democracy forward. I have this thing on my website where I says political involvement should be a requirement for citizenship. And what I mean by that is that the reason things are so bad right now for so many is so many of us think we are impotent to actually make change in society. And when we start engaging, that is what we get. But anyhow, let's go back to Nick here. Nick, as it turns out, I saw Eileen brought to my attention that you guys were, and I think superlatives are warranted here. She said that you guys are on attack from the city. Tell us a little bit about, first of all, who and what is Foods Not Bombs?
Well, Food Not Bombs is an international, non-hierarchical collective of chapters. So we're not even in touch with the other chapters. We don't have any centralized decision making, but all of the chapters around the world basically follow the same 3 main principles, which is that we share vegetarian and vegan food. We're anti-war. We think that money should be spent on human need and not on the war machine. And that we're non-hierarchical, which is something that's, really fun and interesting, a great way to organize. There's not very many non-hierarchical structures around in Houston. There's certainly, but it works. We're an
We
international
attempted that actually with Occupy, and we had some issues with it, but you guys seem to get it to work very well.
Well, yeah, of course. It is something that's familiar. We make non-hierarchical decisions with our friends all the time. What do we want to do tonight? There's
Right.
no one's in charge. But at most institutions, especially funded institutions, especially institutions that have property, are going to be hierarchical. So it's an interesting thing to show people this is what it's like. It doesn't mean that somebody can come in for the first time and just start redoing everything. We decide stuff as a group.
Right.
And some people are more familiar with how things have gone in the past. And so
By consensus.
yeah, you come in and be part of that. And we share, vegetarian and vegan food. A lot of it is food that would have otherwise gone to waste, food from supermarkets and restaurants that would have been tossed out. And so we provide a meal. Not all the volunteers are vegetarian. Certainly not all the people who come to eat there are vegetarian, but they have a vegetarian meal together. And we think of it as solidarity more than charity, because if you go to some of these other institutions that are really part of what I would call the homeless industrial complex, they're getting big money. They don't eat that food. The CEO of the Star of Hope mission, this guy gets paid $450,000 a year. He certainly doesn't sit down and eat the food that they're sharing there. This is big money. We're all volunteer, and so we're kind of a little bit more free to say whatever we want about the anti-homeless laws, anti-homeless policies, or whatever. We don't have to worry about the city or the Coalition for the Homeless turning off our grant money. So we have that freedom to be able to discuss these things. And there's all kinds of anti-homeless laws that are going on. The one against sharing food with the homeless is just one of many.
Explain that law.
So right now, under Anise Parker in 2012, it became a crime, a misdemeanor with a fine up to $2,000 to share food with more than 5 needy people in public. And we were like, we're not going to follow your law. We're holding a press conference. We're going to show how horrible this is. We're only a block away from City Hall. We're at the downtown library. Well, Anise Parker backed off pretty quickly and exempted us from the law, so that we didn't have to go through their system. Now, Turner is enforcing the law and writing us tickets that actually say on them the crime is food service event, in parentheses, feed homeless. That's the crime. And what they are using that to do is move us out of the library location to try to get us to share food in, of all places, a miserable HPD parking lot. And one of the organizations, not us, but one of the organizations that uses that same space, they were like, we can't risk getting tickets. They're on a different night than us. We're going to go over to the HPD parking lot and do what you say. So the first week they went, they shared their food. The second week they showed up, and they were like, well, the police are going to share the food. Just drop off your food here, and then you can go. And it just shows how quickly these ideas of what the mayor is ostensibly offering changes into like, just drop off some food and get out of here, right? We're an organization that we want to share an anti-war message. You do not hear an anti-war message on any platform. I barely hear it on KPFT anymore, right? We are a hardcore anti-war group, and one of the ways that we can spread that message is by holding events that have food at them. And that's exactly why the Florida chapter of Food Not Bombs was found to be innocent, that the law against sharing food with the homeless was struck down by a federal court in Florida because they said this is freedom of speech. These people have a message. They're anti-war. They're vegetarian. They're non-hierarchical in the way, and the food is involved in their event.
And there isn't a sale or anything going on.
No sales. I mean, none of it. We're 100% volunteer. We're not reimbursed for our gas money. We're not reimbursed for anything. So, if we buy blankets to give out to the homeless, we generally try to get donations to reimburse that.
Let's get clear here, because let's start with Anise Parker. What you're actually saying is Anise Parker got a bill passed, because let's remember also, folks, Houston is a strong mayor city. In other words, the mayor has a whole lot of power in Houston. This law was passed that if you're giving food to more than 5 people
in 2012,
in 2012, it is a crime. Now, my question to you is that was calculated to ensure that you didn't build up a whole bunch of people that are coming to be fed, correct?
So the intentions, the mayor will always say, "Oh, it's for this good reason." And
what's a good reason?
Well, her initial reason was really funny. She was like, "Oh, these groups that are sharing food in the street, like Food Not Bombs, and most of the other groups that were sharing food in the street happen to be church groups. They're causing an epidemic of food poisoning across the city." And we're like,
"That's never true." Yeah.
And we're like, "Okay, well, show us your data." Well, we don't have any data. Oh, okay. Well, we'll get some data. So we went out and interviewed homeless people. Where have you ever gotten food poisoning? And again, they pointed towards the shelters, and miserable food being served in the shelters and being prepared by people who don't care. Yeah, and they don't eat that food. We will eat our food if we have enough. We're happy to eat the food. It's
well, actually, it's a camaraderie, right? You go out there and you talk politics, you talk a whole lot of stuff with the people, and not only that, you give the people hope.
Yeah, And the important thing about 2012 is that this law passed with a bunch of other anti-homeless laws, but the main thing that you need to know is that's when a bunch of federal money from Obama came into Houston to fight homelessness, created all kinds of wealth for the Coalition for the Homeless and the people who work with them. And in order to get that money, they need homeless people to come through the door, and they check them in on their tablet through this thing called the Homeless Management Information System. That's how they justify their grant money. And we're the competition, right? We're giving away food
You're
for free.
the competition that makes no money for the people involved.
Yeah, we're not part of their system, so we're a threat to their bottom line. And in order to justify this money, something that is really important to understand and doesn't get enough coverage is that it was a conditional grant. You'll get your grant money if you can show that you're reducing the amount of homelessness. So they do this little charade thing every year called the point-in-time homeless count. They go out and count how many homeless people they are. Statistically, it is garbage. Rice University Kinder Institute, all kinds of different people have analyzed it. The National Coalition for the Homeless has looked at it. These statistically are useless, and they just use them to show, oh, look, we lowered the amount of homeless so we can keep getting our grant money. So now, on paper, Houston hardly has any homeless compared to what we used to have.
But we know for a fact that it actually has increased, especially with the recent increase in rents.
And we're about to see, just a horrible bunch of conditions because Biden is allowing all of these things that were protecting people
The rent
from evictions,
protections, right.
Medicaid, to expire, and it's going to throw people onto the streets in record numbers.
That is sad. Now, right now, they've started giving you guys a whole lot of tickets. You have you're trying to raise some funds to pay off these tickets. I think it could be as high as $2,000 per ticket. You've had 2 tickets. You've had friends with 6 tickets. You've had people all over in Foods Not Bombs and other organizations being ticketed every week or every day that they go out there and serve the poor. Imagine if all of the effort was done to try to create spaces for these people who are homeless.
Well, I want to ask you a question. So
Yes.
you were talking about how the markets work.
Mhm.
How, in capitalism,
Right.
could you give decent housing to the homeless and then expect the working poor to continue working, right? Because, right now, homeless people can, people who are super poor can get food stamps, can get Medicaid. The one thing that they really can't get for free is housing. So if
Right.
you were to give housing to people that had nothing, then why would the working poor keep
Well,
working?
I'm going to throw this right back at you. Right now we're increasing interest rates, correct? And I'm going to be with you in a second. We're increasing interest rates. That's what the Fed's doing. And the reason for increasing interest rates is they want to tamp down inflation. Bear in mind that inflation isn't caused right now by shortages. It is caused by people because they can raise the prices. They do. It's hard to find this message on standard media, but that's the only reason we have inflation now, because they can raise prices, period. That said, they're raising interest rates so that it will reduce demand on these plutocrats, forcing them. In other words, the government isn't going to say, guys, you must lower your prices. What the government will do is say, I will give pain to the poor. I will give pain to the middle class so that it'll force the plutocrats to adjust their pricing mechanism. To your question now, how is it in a capitalist society that you can pay low wages and not have housing for the poor who your capital depends on? And the reason why is, who said we were humane? Who said that our economic system was humane? What gave you the impression that our economic system was humane? You are living what our economic system generates. What the Fed chair said, and listen closely, the Fed chair said, I must raise the interest rates so that we will get 2 million more people unemployed. I repeat, that is not my saying, that is not Bernie's saying, that is not Elizabeth Warren's saying. He is saying in order to reduce the inflation rate, we must put 2 million more Americans in pain. That is our economic system. That answers your question.
Well, no, I still would like to know. For me, it's like, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, well, if we just had more humane policies, we could fix these things. But I've seen good homeless policies like the Housing First model come to Houston, and then when they get kind of figured out through the system of capitalism, which in Houston, I mean, basically real estate runs
Yes,
city council.
yes.
Right. So when they get reinterpreted, how could you give decent housing to the homeless under capitalism? Why would the working poor keep working? Why wouldn't they say, well, let's not work either, and then we can get this good housing, right? I
But
believe
again, there's an answer to that. Look, when you grew up as a kid, you learned civics. Working was a good thing. That's what we learned. I mean, look, no society can survive not based on some ideological bent. Every society has an ideological bent, and our ideological bent is work. Yes, and that's a good thing. We work together to get things done. I don't care if you want to call the economic system capitalist or whatever you want to call the economic system, as long as it has provisions to take care of everybody. In your case, when you talk about how can we have housing, there's this thing that's been tested quite often that I've done interviews with people called the basic income model. In other words, let the free enterprise, not the free enterprise, I don't call capitalism free enterprise. Let the capitalist system go do its thing. But let's make sure that we have the mechanisms within that system that allows people to have a basic income commensurate with being able to have, in Panama we used to call it la bolsa de comida. What that means is we make sure that you have at least a minimum of what a person can live on. Most people won't want that because most people, the way you grew up, you want to work. I work 16 hours a day. All right? I love doing that. You work how many hours a day? When you're out there serving the poor, what are you doing? Is that not work?
Yeah, well, I think that it's true. And of course, like, I am very much in favor of alternatives to capitalism. I'm an anti-capitalist myself. And I think that the question that I think is important is that so many people think, well, through this structure of landlord and real estate run Democratic Party or whatever, maybe we can fix this and make it better. And it's like, it kind of goes against their bottom line, right? It kind of goes against their ability to get the working poor to continue to pay for bad housing. Because if you take that cudgel away and you say, well, everyone gets housing now, then real estate doesn't profit.
But I think when you say you take the cudgel away, that is assuming that humanity. Okay, go ahead. I spoke already. Why don't you say it? And then I'll ask you your comments, Ingrid. Go ahead, Tori.
Yeah, there's a right-wing theory of sociology. It's called the functionalist theory. It's versus the conflict theory, which is the left-wing theory of sociology. The functionalist theory says that any dysfunction in society serves to reinforce the system. And I think that's what Nick's getting at here. I mean, it's like, from a capitalist perspective, folks driving to work and they seeing homeless people all over the place, it kind of like cracks the whip on their butt, and makes them, it's like, okay, I better not, rock the ship too much and, just go to work, maybe not ask for that raise or just fit in, because otherwise I might be homeless.
And again, remember what I speak about many times. A democracy and this type of system requires an educated population, and that's to put it bluntly, we used to be. We're getting worse at it. I want to say some more, but Ingrid hasn't said anything on this topic, and I would like to hear Ingrid's whatever it is that you have to add to the topic.
Well, I'm certainly no expert or even very educated, but as a citizen, I guess I was thinking when Nick posed that question, it does make sense. If you give somebody something for free, what is the incentive to get them to work or make their own money
to pay? Yeah.
But I would argue that, maybe reflecting on my very own situation when I was in college and living in a dorm, and I will say it was unair conditioned in the South. So it was minimum housing. It was clean. It was safe. It was a place to live. But it was certainly not a place that I wanted to spend the rest of my life. And so I think that's maybe an answer that I look at.
Actually, I think that's the answer that I gave, and that is la bolsa minima, the least you make. There's a certain level of humanity that every society should at least aspire to, and there is a fact that says if somebody wants to work a whole lot, then it probably commensurate with how much money or whatever they have. But let's take a look. Let's go to the higher echelons, because the people that make the most in our society right now, Nick, are the ones that really contribute the least.
Yeah, I think the important financial aspect of this to understand like how policies have gone in Houston and things that haven't gotten that much attention. The mayor got a fair amount of attention for throwing out the panel that he had commissioned to figure out what to do with the Harvey money. $16 million of Harvey money was supposed to go to low-income
Right.
housing. Instead, he gave it to his longtime partner,
Right.
Barry Barnes. That got a fair amount of attention. There's also the Angel Gardens evictions, the Crestmont Village evictions, the mayor taking away housing of poor people and giving it to his buddies, Womack or whoever. And that has gotten a very, very small amount of coverage. But when you step back and you look at these things, it really reflects my experience talking to the mayor, which is that he didn't care what I said because I wasn't real estate. I'm sitting
You didn't
there.
care what you said because you didn't have power.
Yeah. And we have the type of power that we have. We can hold a good press conference. We can get in the media. We can make memes making fun of the mayor's crazy policies. We have certain types of power, but he didn't pretend to care. A good politician would at least pretend to care
Right.
what you said, right? He didn't do that, but that's not how he treats real estate. That's not how he treats people from the homeless industrial complex. So yeah, I think that
Nick, I want to posit something to you.
All right.
Okay? I really want to posit this because I think you are a great progressive guy, anti-capitalist. I'm not a capitalist. I'm a free enterpriser. There's a big difference. That's for another day. There's a huge difference. I believe I have my own company. I did my own thing. All that. I love that. That's not capitalism. What I did, but I think it's important to note that what they've done to society is neutered us all, from the media right down. You probably heard of the Powell memo. You ever heard of that word before? The Powell memo was used to really infiltrate schools, churches, and everything to have this neoliberal way of thinking. And, so people, most of your friends probably think that sort of way that says, we have to live in a society that operates this way. There's no other option. What you're doing right now, getting some coverage on the media like you do, what all of us are trying to do and to get into the people's psyche and using what I call geometric progression, which means we're not going to get a media that's corporate dominated to tell this story. They won't do it, right? Who's paying their bills? But we have to learn, in my humble opinion, as activists, how to work together, which is they bank on activists having their own little fiefdoms and not working together.
you've never seen a more not bipartisan, just multi-partisan organization than the ones who were fighting against this law when it passed. All of the Democrats, except for Bradford, including Wanda Adams, who was like supposedly a big homeless advocate, voted, against the homeless.
Right.
The Republicans, because of freedom of religion to share food, were on the other side. So it was our group. We're far. I mean, I'm far left, and many in our group are. You don't have to be left or right to be in our group or whatever. But our group was working along with a bunch of Republican people in Houston with, every group you could imagine. There was a Muslim group, there was Jewish groups, there was churches, all kinds of people that were part of our coalition that were saying, don't steamroll over the homeless and pass all of these laws. And it was a beautiful attempt to fight these laws, but unfortunately these laws are just coming down more and more in cities across the country.
Yes.
And this is not a new thing. I mean,
I consider myself an activist, and I was ignorant to what was all the things that was going on with what you're doing and others like you're doing downtown.
And big picture, forget us, right? We're just one group. When this law passed in 2012, it had a chilling effect on people just going with extra food they had from an office party or whatever and sharing it with the homeless because they were afraid they would get a ticket. That's why this law needs to be overthrown.
Yes.
Because it needs to be overturned because we need people to know, it is okay to go share my leftover food with the homeless. And that cutting off the food supply of homelessness increases crimes of desperation.
I agree with you, but again, people have to know. Like I said, I've known many activists, and I can guarantee you that most don't. Because again, we were in an HPJC meeting, and when I heard this, it was like the antennas up, and it's like, oh no, I got to find you as a person to come and talk about the issue because again, I plead ignorance.
I mean, we have done great on media so far. We have been covered in national press. We're on the front page in like little town in Arkansas had Food Not Bombs Houston on the front page, and the coverage has been quite positive of what it is that we're doing. Obviously, the other side has a very difficult argument to make. That it's best to cause more desperation. So it doesn't look good. And yeah, the press has been great. But of course, the stories that tend to resonate in the news, I mean, like, you know how it is.
Yeah.
Once they got their war money, it's just like, oh, we'll just give them more money. It's not a story anymore. Oh, we'll give some more money. Oh, nuclear war is coming. Oh, just give some more money. That's how it's not a big story.
Well, the thing about it is, I'm learning this as we go and as we're doing this. And what I've learned is that you have to tell, we have a tendency as activists to know our material very well and think we can just tell the numbers, talk the facts, and that's enough. I've learned over the years, and I'm still learning over the years, that I have to make Ingrid feel that the problems that you are taking care of right now is existential for her as well. And it is. It actually is, because as society degenerates, we get the increase in crimes that we see. We get all these things that ultimately will affect
disease.
Ingrid. I'm just using you, Ingrid, as an example, because I think, and that is where, Nick, I'm saying it's not enough for us to just tell what's happening. We have to make that story a story that affects those people who are listening to us as well.
Yeah, I agree, and I appreciate that, and I think that public health is really important and under-focused on individual health. You have every time that public health is something that you can vote for, people choose to go with the candidate who's offering public health. Biden said, if you have COVID, you will be covered for the rest of your life from the symptoms of that. He said, I will provide a public option. People are like, bam, that's what I want. I'm hearing about that. But of course, like if homeless people are sick, everyone else is going to get sick too, because that's how disease works.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and again, like I said, what we're doing is one thing, but this is something that you don't do one time. It's one thing the right knows is that you keep repeating things over and over. And right now, the right believes that folks that look like me is a danger to their existence, right? And that's what's happening in this country. See how many people.
I think they're more focused on the transgender threat.
Well, now they are. Yeah, but you get my point.
Yes.
My point is that if you take a look at it, you have to get into people's faces. Ray, come onto the air, and we're going to see what Ray has to say and move on.
Alrighty.
Come on, Ray.
Hey, Egberto, I was just tuning in and listening to your conversation here with these fine folks doing the work that they do. And it really hurts my heart to hear the level of bureaucracy we have at the city level as far as, these people are putting in their hard-earned time. They have to spend money on this food.
Yes.
This is resources going into this cause. And the best way the city can reward them, as they say, all good deeds go no good deed goes unpunished.
Mm-hmm.
The best way they can reward them is by serving them with tickets. And where is the money from those ticket revenues going? I'd like to know.
Well, it's probably going to go right back to the real estate guys. Anyway, look, Ray, you hit the nail on the head, right? There's so much that we could do right now for the homeless. We have a lot of places, We have a whole lot of places. Yeah. HPJC, you say.
Yeah, you can help us out. If we need this money to pay tickets, we will use it to pay tickets. Hopefully we don't end up using the money to pay tickets, and then we spend it on the stuff that we normally spend our donations on, which is beans and blankets. So that we are at hpjc.org/FNB for Food Not Bombs, hpjc.org/FNB. And that's a great way that you
let
can
me
come
tell
out
you,
and
if you're
support
trying
us.
to bankrupt, we won't let that. But anything else you want to add, Ray, before we go to Ingrid, and Ingrid tell us all that she's doing to get the mayoral race debate today?
Okay, yeah. I want to just point out to your grander argument of just being homeless.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about antiseptic slavery.
That's what I like.
It's
That's my word, man. Yes. We are all
It's
antiseptic
basically-
slaves. Yeah.
It's basically the fear of that
Mm-hmm.
that keeps the working class in line. It's like you might hate your job. I could say I hate my job because I called in today just because I didn't want to do it, you know. And yet, you know, you still want to hold on to that because what's on the other end is total destitution possibly, and, you know, the indigence of trying to find a place to stay. And that's enough to keep a lot of people in line so they don't have to depend on, you know, what people like yourself do in the community and feeding the homeless. They don't want to have to rely on those resources, so they keep coming to work. George Carlin said it best.
Oh man, that was a great piece that he did. Say it without the dirty words.
You know, keep them coming back to these jobs. You know, it's like the middle class is there to scare the crap out of the working class.
Oh yeah. You know, I love George Carlin, man. That's one of my favorite comedians. You know, I don't call him a comedian. He's a lot more than a comedian. He's understands,
a philosopher.
Exactly. He understands society and he understands how the system works. Hey Ray, thank you so kindly for calling as usual, my brother.
All right, y'all take it easy, man, and keep up the good work.
All right, Dennis, come on in, and then we'll go to Ingrid. Come on in, Dennis.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me,
Yes,
Egberto?
yes, senor.
Okay, and I was going to make a statement and have you comment on it.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to mention, just in passing, that I saw George Carlin front row at the Arena Theater.
Oh man, I'm
around
envious.
98.
I'm envious.
Yeah, it was amazing. And but listen, here's my comment I wanted you to comment on, which I have heard. One of the definitions of fascism is, as I've heard it, is collusion between the government and industry,
You got that
government and corporations.
Yes.
So what do you think about this? It seems to me that one of the reasons that prices on a lot of things have gotten higher under the present administration is because, you know, it's corporations, it benefits them for there to be deregulation, even though it's a bad thing for the people, be it the banks, you know, the oil companies. And I come from that background, and I'm not down on oil companies. I like the guys, too.
Yeah.
But, you know, you could say, hey, we'll just keep prices high and we'll blame it on this guy. You know what I'm saying?
Dennis, look,
That's
let me.
basically all I have to say. I'll hang up and let you comment.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Let me tell you, everything that Dennis says is correct, right? I've had shows on where we broke down inflation and proved, and notice I didn't say we think, we proved that inflation is nothing more than because they can. Nothing more. There was never a shortage, none of that. When they talk about employee shortage, you can't have an employee shortage when you have 3 million people trying to get into your country. There's a whole lot. You can't, I mean, look, we have just learned how to be lied to and accept it. And because, you know, it's just the thing that we do, but we have to change. But anyhow, Ingrid Bond, look, I thank you so kindly for showing up. Don't go anywhere. We're not done with you, my brother. Okay, you know, let me ask you to tell us about what you've arranged for tonight.
Okay, well, before I even get started, I was going to make a little observation on some of the callers and
Please do.
talk you had, because I have just seen from personal experience that one of the roots of our problems are, I don't know when they stopped teaching civics in school,
Yes.
but I have 2 daughters that are in their 20s now, and when they were in high school, they were not required to take a basic civics class, which I certainly remember in my day. But another thing is that, you know, I did make sure they got registered to vote, and they both were 18 before they graduated from high school, so they both got to vote. But in my work now as a precinct chair, what I found out is every school in Texas is supposed to give high school seniors or anyone over the age of 18 2 opportunities a year to register to vote. And they are not doing that. The government does not want young people to be engaged. They don't want them to register to vote. And I've worked with another volunteer, Eliza Garretts, who is amazing and has contacted many of the principals at HISD and also in A-Leaf. And the amount of effort it took to just get them to comply with this rule. One of them, the former principal of Lamar High School, I will say, said he would conduct the voter registration, but they had to do it in the ROTC office. Imagine how intimidating that is,
Right.
that's where you go to register to vote, and you get a talking to try to have you sign up for the military. Anyway, I just wanted to say that, it seems to me the right-wing conservative Republicans have infiltrated our school districts. They're trying to influence everything that happens, and you start with the education. I know young people don't have a propensity to vote, but you have to teach them why it's important, and that seems to have already, for the last 10 years, been removed from our system.
What I also encourage, and that's what I don't remember his name from Florida, really kind of got my blood flowing. We don't want these young people to only register to vote and vote. I want them running. I mean, there are some young candidates in Congress right now that makes 50 and 60-year-olds look pretty darn, well, I won't say the word on radio, but so, I mean, I want these young, I tell you, I fell in love with Gen Z. That's your daughter's age at
Yes.
20, because they don't care. They will come out there and they are not going to fall in line. Even as they haven't gotten civics in school, they've gotten civics on TikTok. And I tell you something, I don't know about you, I love TikTok, and I love getting some civics on TikTok with verification. But before we continue, tell us a little bit about what you came into, and then we'll move on.
Okay, certainly. So our Bayou Blue Democrats Club has had a few candidate forums in the past. In 2018, our very first year of existence, we hosted a candidate forum for all the Democratic candidates for the CD7, which at that time was held by John Culberson. And
I remember that one.
it was very competitive, and we felt very strongly afterwards that we had provided a good service because there were 7 candidates running, and people wanted to know who they were, and there were a newly group of activated political people. So taking from that, in the last every 2-year elections, we've tried to focus on candidate forums where the people who are members of our club and our community can come out in a very low-key, casual atmosphere, really see these candidates. And so tonight what we're doing is we've invited every candidate who has announced that they will run to appear at a forum that we are hosting. We have a normal meeting spot, which is St. Stephen's Episcopal Church, but we had a very good response, over 200 people, so we've moved our location. So it will be at 6 o'clock tonight at the IBEW Hall, the International.
What time is it going to start?
So we will let people in at 6. The actual forum will start at 6:30 sharp.
Okay.
And then
How long is it going to last?
it's an hour and a half.
Wow, okay.
And we, let me tell you who is going to be attending. So we have confirmed Amanda Edwards, former council member, Gilbert Garcia, he was the chair of Metro, Lee Kaplan, he's been involved in politics, and I know he's a successful businessman, Robin Williams, who is a law enforcement officer, and Robert Gallegos, a current city council member. Chris Hollins was going to appear, but since he dropped out of the race to switch to comptroller last Thursday, he will not be appearing in person. We did extend invitations to Senator Whitmire and also Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and the senator is in session with the Texas legislature in Austin, so he asked to provide a video, and we allowed him to submit just a 2-minute summary video. We asked if we could ask him the questions and record that to provide to our audience, but he declined to do that. And as of right now, we do not know the status of the Congresswoman.
All right, well, my comment to that is I think if you're having a forum, a debate, this is my personal opinion, only the people who show up should speak. I mean, if you care about your community, you show up. Even if it's by Zoom, we're in a technological age right now. Senator Whitmire and my friend Sheila Jackson Lee, wherever they are, even if they're sitting in an airport, they could participate in a forum via our electronic methods. After all, this is not an existential, but an important election here in Houston as I see it. And your club, as well as the many other clubs that we have in Houston, they are really important in making people making people aware of the choices that they have. And, they need to be queried, they need to be questioned. So I am happy that you guys are having that, and I'll be live streaming it. So
Thank you, and thank you so much for offering to do that. It is, a little overwhelming. First of all, I also wanted to say that our moderator is a great guy, Jaime Rodriguez.
Jaime Rodriguez. We've had him on air here as well. Yeah, he's a great guy.
He has great experience in all realms of politics. He's a political advisor now, and he has run a forum for us before. He also recently, when we had the election for New Harris County chair, ran a very lively and informative forum for the 4 candidates that were running there. So we're really pleased that he has agreed to help us with our forum. I know he's going to make it interesting, good, and he keeps the line, he enforces the time limits, and he keeps everybody in order. So that's going to be great.
Bayou Blue
Dems.
Democrats, Bayou Blue Dems have made the right choice in selecting Jaime Rodriguez, because I tell you, he really had them humping for that last chair, and he asked some questions that politicians don't generally want you to ask, which is, I think, would have made Nick happy.
He did. The one, I think, brightest highlight that I remember is he asked each of them to pull their phone out of their pocket and call one elected official, just to show how close or connected these candidates were with the political process. So.
That was a trip. I had to go up and backslap him, but I am glad I wasn't one of the politicians out there running, because I don't know. But anyhow, for the folks that are online, I want to, you guys, sorry I didn't really get to a lot of you, but I have two very folks that really had a lot to say here. But welcome Eric Hayes, welcome E2247, welcome Bruce Pollard, welcome B.D. Pollard, welcome May Wood, Lee Grant, and all the others that I'm scrolling by with my eyes, even though it's better. Mike is in the house as well. Welcome aboard, Mike. Did you want to tell us something about those CDs you have in your hands?
Oh, well, of course. Check out Free Radicals, our last 2 albums, White Power Outage Volume 1 and 2. They are available on all platforms. Free Radicals is playing on the 28th of this month, 26th of next month at Avant Garden, free shows. Please come support Free Radicals. We've been doing this for 26, 27 years here in Houston, and we are an outspoken band that plays instrumental music and collaborates with rappers and singers and other folks. And but yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I also wanted to say I have a lot of criticisms, of course, of the Democrats and being in bed with real estate, but to their credit, because of some of the voting that people did in the past, in my opinion, we are, if we get arrested, which is less likely than it used to be for a misdemeanor, a lot less likely, we will probably be released on personal recognizance bonds. There won't be cash bonds required. This has made a huge difference for people getting misdemeanors across Houston. So there are, some important things to say about what having Democrats in having some power to change things has done. Of course, I'm very disappointed on Democrats across the board, but that is a big difference. So that if you do come out and volunteer with Houston Food Not Bombs, we're down in front of the library 4 nights a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, around 7 p.m. If you are willing to get a ticket with us, which would be an incredible type of donation. You can bring food, but you can also stand up and say, I'm willing to get a ticket tonight. Then you are going into a very annoying legal system where you have to go to your court date and have a jury trial and all this stuff, and it could take forever. But the chances that you'll be arrested and the chance that you'll be left in jail over the weekend are much different than they would have been 15 years ago. So important to mention that.
Well, look. First of all, I got to say again, thank you for what you're doing out there. I mean, there's a whole lot of, I don't know, like I said, driving into Houston today, your heart sinks when you pass 59 and I think it's 59 and 610. and there's a whole community.
We need to change the narrative because right now, the New York Times,
Yes.
The Intercept, they both looked at this data, this, as I explained,
The
this
bogus
bunk data. Yeah, that the homeless count, we're reducing homelessness. And they're like, what is Houston doing right? Let's interview people and officials in Houston. What have you figured out? I'm like, didn't you even look at
You said
into
the Intercept was one of the culprits that actually believed the data?
Yeah, Ryan Grimm went on the Hill interviewing Houston city officials to say, what have you figured out? And he has this guy come on and just say his usual talking points or whatever. It's like Houston hasn't figured anything out. They've just figured out how to generate the data they need to get their grant money. So I applaud anything that's done for the homeless, and the city has done all kinds of things for the homeless, but of course we're saying a lot more needs to be done. First and foremost, these anti-homeless laws like the one that's affecting us and the other ones that don't affect volunteers. There's laws about camping and how big your belongings have to be in the civility ordinance. You can't sit down or lie down on the sidewalk between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. There's all kinds of crazy anti-homeless laws that need to go. We're talking about the one that happens to affect me.
I want to interrupt for a second because we're going to have a few rich people listening to the show right now, and they're going to say NIMBY, right? They're going to say, well, if you are at your home and you have this smelly person in front of your home just sitting down there, it's not a good sight. It's not something that you want to see, etc. How do you feel about that person who feels that way? And I'll be honest. I think most people going to their homes and that sort of stuff, that's not what they want to see. I have a comeback, but I want to hear your point.
All I would say is, poor people also deserve to have the safety that would be, not having desperate people around their houses. But the way the law is enforced is constantly to kick homeless people from the wealthier neighborhoods to the poorer neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm. And the reason I brought that up in the first, let me ask you first to chime in on, you don't want to see a smelly homeless person probably, in front of your home, right?
No, but I mean, it is such a complex problem. I mean, the homeless do not have easy issues to solve. And some of the larger organizations, I'll just say that I've been involved with Search, and I think they do, from what I can tell, a really good job of trying to integrate and help out each of the medical, child care, job training issues. But I think that spin that you talked about has become more important than the actual work of helping the people. And so what you lose in the translation is that I just bring it back again to, civic involvement. Like, people don't want to know. They don't want to help.
Exactly.
They want to, if you're talking about rich people, yes, they would like to write a check. They will give you money so you can go do it. But they're not going to be the ones showing up or investing time into understanding it to maybe bring whatever assets they have to a solution. And
there's a place for everyone. I mean, if somebody says, I don't have any time, I have some money, that's what I want to do to help out, that's a great donation to Food Not Bombs. We would be happy to take monetary donations. A lot of times people, they say, I feel better about just buying food for you. I'm like, bring out a 5-pound bag of dried beans. That's a great donation. So however it makes sense for people. Wealth inequality is causing all kinds of problems, and it's that's a difficult thing to deal with. But that's how it is now. Some people have all kinds of extra money, and that's something that they can do.
We talk a whole lot about the inequalities and what really causes it and who deserves the money that they have, etc. Bill Gates didn't really earn his money. I love Bill Gates, but he didn't earn his money. I love a lot of these guys, but they didn't earn that money. But that said, I want to put you out of business. Thank you, sir. Okay, I was speaking, so you go ahead and talk.
Yeah, it's really not that complicated. It's just a matter of expanding the social safety net. The answer for homelessness is permanent supportive housing for people that are dysfunctional for whatever reason, addiction or mental health care. And it's actually cheaper to get, for the society, to get people into small houses or tiny apartments, and it's better for the homeless people. We can't be asking people to, get off of alcohol or drugs while they're living on the streets. The easiest way to help people get off of alcohol and drugs is to get them permanent supportive housing, so they can have just a place to rest and relax and de-stress. and then you get them into addiction treatments or whatever. You know, it's not.
I mean,
it's not that complicated.
Yeah, it is complicated because who are we up against, right? There are people in the homeless industrial complex making hundreds of thousands of dollars, over $400,000 to run these things, and the homeless to them, that's what pays their bills.
It goes. I mean, the person who runs the Red Cross, she makes $500,000. Okay, I mean a year. So I mean, you hit the nail on the head. That is why you don't need these. You know, people love to use the big S words when I tell folks how I think a society would run much better. Because even these non-profits, in effect, they're called non-profits, but really the profit is in what the executives and the people that run all these things get paid, right? So what Tori said is a corollary of what I wanted to say, and that is that I would love to put you out of business. Right?
Yeah, I mean, if your job is to put yourself out of business, but you're also getting paid for your job, then
but and that's what I'm saying. The idea is to put you out of business in this form. In a rich country where there is excess capital, there's absolutely no reason for what I saw underneath the different bridges as I had to come here.
Food,
there is no
not
reason.
Bombs.
Exactly. But again, you know, I don't want you doing food, not bombs. I want to listen to your music. Whenever you're out there taking care of that, you ain't playing music. I want to listen to your music. My point is that we as a society have to show the rest of society, those of us in the know, have to find a way to tell that story to society, to let them see those folks under the bridge as having affecting them as well.
Yeah.
And we have not figured out how to do that yet. And it's something that if we are going to solve the problem, we actually have to figure out how to do.
It's fundamental to Food Not Bombs to say that all this money that's being wasted on the military, or worse than wasted, right, perhaps escalating towards nuclear war right now, should be spent on human need.
But again, when you have the Powell memo who have trained, and you can chime in. Wait, let me say something here, because I want to say. And take this the right way, okay? You know, we are two guys on the table going at it, and we have a woman in the middle,
yes,
right? And this is what I learned at Move to Amend, and what we learned. Women, you got, just like he butts in when you got to butt in and say something too.
Well, I didn't really see Nick butting in, but I will say, okay, if you have me on again, I will know the drill and I will butt in a little bit more. The first
Thank
time,
you.
I'm just learning the ropes. I'm just figuring it all out and seeing what's going on
I know
here.
Nick did butt in.
Okay. Well, no, but I'm learning a lot too, so I've got some things going on in my head about everything that Nick is saying. But, you know, I would say all accolades to you for doing what you've done. But I'm going to circle back around to my forum, which is the reason I came here one more time. I would encourage you, if you cannot make it out there in person to the North Loop, then please listen to the live stream, because these are the candidates who want to be your mayor. They're showing up. They are not giving excuses why they're not here. They're not the old guard who just wants to keep in power. So come and see them and come decide who you want.
Folks, thank you so kindly for listening to Politics Done Right. Nick Cooper, thank you for being Nick Cooper and all the work you do. Senor Ingrid, thank you for being here and what you do. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
KPFT is 53. Celebrated a KPFT fundraiser.